POC Network here, and this is Tech Talk. We have a question and answer session here based on an older question, actually. Almost a year ago, this came from a user called Stephen T. This actually came up in a conversation quite recently, and that made us raise an eyebrow and reminisce on an old question, this question, and go, I think somebody had asked something about this, and hey, this is a perfect time to answer it. And the question was, big build up for this. Stephen T asks, hey, I have a DSLR set up here. I like to run around shooting video and images remotely, and it's kind of annoying to bring around all of these batteries just so I can keep shooting all day. Is there any kind of external solution that's equivalent to plugging it into the wall that I can take with me on the go so that this is easier and I'm not always constantly swapping out batteries? Well, Stephen, the answer is no. There is absolutely, well, there's a couple solutions out there that's kind of like plugging into the wall, but it's not going to be efficient for your needs if you want to move around and be mobile. I mean, you can go solar, but it's going to require a pretty good setup to be able to keep the camera and equipment, constantly powered. But and generators, maybe, huge batteries, sure, keep the camera going forever. It's just not efficient. Now, a good efficient option for you is to basically reduce the number of batteries needed and, kind of bring it down from, I don't know what you're using, Stephen, but it could be 4, 5, 6 batteries in a day. Let's turn that into like 1, maybe 2 batteries and call it good. And the ability or the way of pulling that off is this. And this is just one option out of many, and this is what brought us to our conversation today because this company sent in one of their batteries to us. This is the FX Lion Nano 1, which is a V-mount battery. That's the whole catch right there, or the term you're looking for is V-mount battery. These batteries are for professional broadcast and camcorder equipment like we used here in the studio, and it plugs into the back of the camera and feeds the camera and is able to power up, pretty good piece of equipment compared to, DSLRs just use a tiny little battery. They not only have that, but sometimes they'll have like an additional outputs to it so you can power a light and some other accessories and so forth. It makes really good mobile solutions for when you're running around in, say, a convention floor or outside shooting video or wherever you may be. And it reduces the amount of batteries you're having to swap out. So it's nice, it's swappable, just clicks into place, unclicks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you're probably wondering, yeah, but that's for a professional piece of equipment. How is this going to power my DSLR? Well, let's take a look at this thing here. And again, any kind of V-mount battery should be good for you. Really, you're just matching voltages up and whatnot, and making sure it's good for your camera. But it should, because a lot of these are, they have a range. They're able to move around within a range, so that way they can power up multiple different devices, without any kind of issues or compatibility problems. But this battery is actually an incredibly small one. They do get bigger than this. This one's, they call it the Nano 1 because of how small it is. It is a 13,600 mAh battery. It's a pretty cool battery. It's small, it's simple, and on the top here is where you have your multiple different accessory connections here. You have USB, micro USB, USB-C. Not all of these batteries offer all of this. Sometimes you get one of those, none of those. Maybe you have just a DC little round connector in the side for certain things. But this one has a pretty good supply of connections, but the most important one, which is what's going to be used by a lot of your professional cameras, is your D-tap connection. And this allows you to adapt or just simply, if you want to mount this to like a setup that, you have a dual rail system, where you got all this stuff hanging off your camera and everything, and it just doesn't hook directly to the camera, it just hooks to the rail and has a D-tap little cable that runs to the camera. There's many different ways to using the actual V-mount battery, but in that case, we're focusing on that D-tap connection because that is what's sending it to your DSLR camera. Of course, your DSLR camera doesn't have this connection, so then we move to using a D-tap to a little dummy battery. So this one right here is good for, I believe, the Panasonics. Yep, the Panasonic, the GH series. And so what it's going to do is the D-tap connection is going to plug right here on the side and plug into place. And then this is going to I'll throw it around, slide into the camera, the DSLR, where the normal battery goes. Usually you'll have this little soft little rubber patch thing that pops out in the front that allows the cable to stick out, so that way you can close the hatch with the dummy battery and cable sticking out of it. And then this will turn on, and this specific battery has a readout here, so you can see a battery is 16.7 volts. It gives you your USB readout, USB-C readout, and so forth, your current battery status plus LEDs and everything. Again, all these batteries are different. This is just the one we're using now, FX Lion Nano 1. And you plug this in the camera, and this will power that camera for a lot longer than Panasonic's battery is going to accomplish. So this, again, it's not a solution that's going to be comparable to plugging it into the wall. It's not going to work as good as that, because wall power is just going to keep you going on indefinitely, as long as you pay your electric bills. Thankfully, we always pay ours, so that's not an issue. But this will give you a lot longer of a battery life than those little Panasonic batteries. So hopefully this answers your question, Stephen. There are hopes out there. There's better batteries than this even. It all depends on what you're really willing to carry around. There's a lot of setups. Again, if you're using a rail system for, you know, a cage with a rail and everything else for your camera to carry it around with, maybe shoulder mounted, whatever the case may be, there are a lot of really cool plates, locking plates for these, so that have the D-tap also built into them. So when you slide the D-tap battery in, it actually powers into the mount and out the side of the mount instead. That way it's a lot more user-friendly. You just hit the latch, pull the battery out, slap the new one in place, and you're already feeding power to the camera with the new battery. So there's many different ways to using a V-Lock battery, and it will power your DSLR. On top of that, because of the USB connections and everything else, you can also power, again, accessories. So you can power any kind of lights or wireless audio or anything like that that you also have connected into your setup or rig. So it's kind of cool. Of course, if you start powering up everything and not just the camera, do keep in mind that you're using additional electricity. It might not last as long as it would if it's just powering up the camera. So that's it. So the question is, hey, can I power up my DSLR, with something outside of the battery, an external power source that's going to last me longer, something equivalent to plugged into the wall, so that wall part? No, not really. Nothing that's going to be reasonable for you to carry around, but close enough. Let's just increase the amount of battery that's going into the camera at any given time to at least enhance that window of opportunity in between battery swaps. So if you liked what you've seen here, don't forget to subscribe below. There's a comment section so we can all talk about this. Maybe you already have a setup like this. How does it work for you? Do let us know. There's also various other different ways of using these, including you can get a twofer cable that comes out of this and splits two ways into two different D-tap connections and goes into your camera and other things, or however your setup may be. There's so many different ways of setting this up, so definitely feel free to use the comment section below. Let us know what you use these batteries for, if you have a DSLR setup, or if you have another option that you think is better. But feel free to use the comment section below. Let us know. And don't forget to check us out online, of course, at pocnetwork.net, where we have all sorts of content for you to check out. And as always, we thank you for watching, and we'll catch you next time. If you want to stay on top of all the latest and greatest, or at least the gadgets we cover, remember to subscribe right here. Subscription button. Click it. You're going to want to. There's lots of videos, interviews, previews, all sorts of stuff. Button. Click it.